Jean recalls Sun's father asking why he wants to marry his daughter. Jean says that although he comes from a poor family, he has ambition. Mr. Paik is willing to approve the marriage if only Jean will work for him. In the present, Jean saw Sun come ashore in one swimsuit. He immediately began to cover up for her. There was a conflict between the couple in front of everyone. When Jean started dragging his wife off the beach by force, Michael decided to stand up for Sun, but was already slapped in the face by her. Later, Jean asked his wife what connects her and Michael. Sun recalls how the preparations for the wedding went. She dreams of spending the honeymoon with her husband, but he says they can't go because he has work waiting for him now. In the present, Sun apologized to Michael. She could not do otherwise, for her husband is capable of very bad things. Jean took out his anger by playing golf. Hugo came up to him and offered to go fishing, but Jean was in no mood for it. Meanwhile, Shannon was helping to build the raft. Saeed began to flirt with her, and she reciprocated. Michael tells Walt about New York City, thinking he will like it there. When the boy leaves to play with the dog, Jack tells Michael that an argument has begun about who will go with him on the raft. There are only 4 seats. Sawyer is one of those who will be on the team. At night, Sun and Kate have a heart-to-heart talk. Kate doesn't understand why Sun puts up with her husband's antics. The woman said he wasn't always like this. They were distracted by a commotion on the beach. Someone had set fire to a raft. The people tried to put out the flames, but the raft could no longer be saved. Michael immediately suspected Jean, thinking it was revenge. Kate and Jack stopped Michael, but most people tend to believe that Jean is to blame. Sun ran to her husband and saw that his hands were injured. Turns out he really did it. Enraged, Jean left, remembering how Mr. Paik had once informed him of a promotion. He would have to go to one person and give a warning. Jean arrived at the appointed address and simply said that Mr. Paik was not happy. Realizing that he was not going to be physically punished, the man gave Jean a rare purebred puppy as a token of his gratitude. Saeed came to talk to Boone about Shannon, saying that perhaps they would become more than friends. Boone advised him to be careful with Shannon, for she is promiscuous with men. Jean woke up in a shelter. As he approached the creek, he was knocked out by Sawyer. Saeed told Shannon that it was better for them not to continue communicating. She guessed right away that Saeed was talking to her brother. The girl found John and asked where Boone was, but he hadn't seen him. Locke also said that she and Boone should start a new life here. Sawyer led a bound Jean through the jungle. He remembers how his wife gave him a surprise. But at dinner, he gets a call. Mr. Paik is very unhappy. When he asked Jean to pass on the warning, he meant something else. And that's what they're going to teach him today. They went back to the man's house, and this time Jean had to act tough. All this was happening in front of the woman and the little girl. Jean came home with blood on his hands. Of course, Sun demanded an explanation. She immediately realized that Jean was doing work for her father, and she hit him. Left alone, he cried. In the present, Sawyer was beating him. Michael was about to join in. Jack and Hugo didn't let that happen, and Sun didn't know what to do. Soon Michael attacked Jean after all. At this point, Sun couldn't stand it and intervened, speaking in English. Everyone, including Jean, was shocked by this. Sun said that someone else had set the raft on fire, and that Jean had hurt his hands while he was putting it out. John stood up for Jean, for it was certainly not in his best interest to destroy the raft. In Locke's opinion, the others had done it. When everyone left, Sun wanted to explain herself to her husband, but he wouldn't listen to her. Michael continued to lament what had happened. Everything burned to the ground. But he wasn't going to give up and planned to start over. Sun saw Jean about to move to the beach. He did not speak to his wife, for he could not forgive her for lying to him. In English, Sun said she wanted to leave him and run away, but changed her mind at the last minute. When Sun asked to give their relationship a second chance, Jean recalled visiting the fishing village to see his father, whom everyone thought was dead. The son apologized for being ashamed of him all these years, and they embraced. Jean talked about his complicated relationship with his wife and her father. But now he can't drop everything. He needs to get Mr. Paik's watch from Sydney to Los Angeles. But it will be the last thing he does for him. In the present, Jean told his wife that it was too late to correct mistakes and left. Meanwhile, Shannon, full of determination, walked over to Saeed and kissed him, then said she wanted to start a new life. John decided to keep Walt company and suddenly asked him why he had burned the raft. Locke promised not to tell anyone about it, and then the boy confessed that he liked it here. John was of the same opinion. Jean volunteered to help Michael build the raft. Saeed and Shannon spent time together, and Sun was now able to walk around in her swimsuit and enjoy the ocean. For days on end, the passengers continue to build a new raft, on duty near it around the clock. In order for some ship to find them, they need a radio transmitter. Jack wants to ask the Frenchwoman for help, but Saeed thinks it's a bad idea. Looking at the papers stolen from Russo with sets of numbers written on them, Hugo recalls watching television. He lives with his mother, who rebukes him for not wanting to meet women. As he watched the show announcing the results of the lottery, Hugo realized that his combination was the winning one. He fainted with shock. In the present, Hugo woke Saeed up in the night and asked what the numbers on the Frenchwoman's cards meant. It seemed strange to Saeed that Hugo was interested in this. As he left, he recalled giving interviews with journalists along with his family. Everyone was wondering how he managed to guess the numbers, because it was a huge amount of money. Hugo confessed that he wants to help his loved ones the most. Suddenly his grandfather became ill. He grabbed his heart and fell. Charlie suspected that Hugo was hiding something. The latter said he wanted to walk through the jungle and be alone, and he took a large supply of water. Meanwhile, John asked Claire for help. Saeed told Jack that the island maps were missing from his tent. The guys guessed that Hugo had taken them and gone somewhere unannounced. Saeed and the others organize a rescue team. Heading along the beach, Hugo recalls driving his mother in an expensive car shortly after his grandfather's funeral. Ever since he won the lottery, their family has been haunted by a series of misfortunes. Hugo decided to surprise his mother and bought a huge mansion. However, the woman broke her leg getting out of the car, and there was a fire in the house. Suddenly the police arrived and out of the blue arrested Hugo. Finally, Hugo found the very cable that led to the trap, and began to recall how he had become even richer as his stock had risen enormously in value. Among other things, the police had paid him a huge compensation for his unlawful arrest. Hugo still believes that that winning combination was cursed. The accountant laughs at his statement as suddenly a man flies by outside the window, falling from the roof. Michael continues to build the raft. Sawyer is annoyed by the loud noises. Sun tells Kate that the husband will never speak to her again. Kate thinks he needs time. Hugo found the suspended carcass of a boar. He stepped into the trap, but Saeed and the others appeared and told him not to move. But Hugo did not listen to them and managed to dodge the trap. The guys question what he is doing here. Hugo suggests that they all look for Russo together, and they do agree. Hugo recalls trying to see a certain Lenny at the hospital. The receptionist refused him, but then a doctor he knew approached Hugo and escorted him to the patient. Lenny, who is mentally ill, did not react to anything. Hugo asks him what the numbers he keeps repeating mean. When Lenny hears that Hugo has played the numbers in the lottery, he becomes hysterical. According to Lenny, Hugo opened Pandora's box. The orderlies subdued the patient, but he managed to shout at Hugo to go to Australia. The guys came to a cliff, from which a flimsy bridge stretched to the opposite side. Despite his friend's warnings, Hugo volunteered to cross the bridge first. Fortunately, he crossed it successfully. Charlie went next. He had barely crossed to the other side when the bridge collapsed. Jack and Saeed intended to find a way around. Hugo recalls arriving at Sam Toomey's house. His wife answered the door and told that Sam had passed away 4 years ago. The thing is, Sam used to be a friend of Lenny's. They served together at the communications station. 16 years ago they had caught a signal and heard a voice repeating those numbers over and over again. One day Sam too bet those numbers in a little lottery and won money. From then on, bad things started happening to the people around him. Soon after, he lost his mind and then took his own life to stop it. The woman thinks it's just a coincidence. In fact, there is no curse. Claire watches John at work. She was very grateful that Locke had kept her company. Alas, the girl was never able to recover her memories. Meanwhile, there was an explosion near Jack and Saeed. They went down to Russo's former habitat, but she foresaw this, packed up and left, booby-trapping the camp. Charlie keeps asking Hugo what his real agenda is, but he didn't have time to answer, because shots rang out nearby. The guys ran away, but Russo caught up with Hugo and pointed a gun at him. He pulled out a sheet of paper with numbers on it and asked what it meant. Russo lowered her weapon and told that their ship had caught a signal broadcasting the numbers. They changed course and ended up shipwrecked on an island where they found a radio tower. While the scientists waited to be rescued, they tried to unravel the meaning of the numbers, but in vain. One way or another, people get to the island because of these numbers. Russo agreed that they were cursed. Hugo was happy that at least someone understood him and hugged Russo. Saeed found a scrap of Nadia's picture in the bushes. Suddenly a frightened Charlie ran out to them, and then a calm Hugo came along and handed them the battery for the radio transmitter. By nightfall, the guys were back at camp. Claire admitted to John that today was her birthday. She was surprised when she realized that all this time Locke had been making a cradle for her unborn baby. At the campfire, Hugo told Charlie that he thought the plane crash was his fault. He also confessed that he had a bill at home for $156 million. Charlie, of course, did not believe him. In the last shots, we see the same numbers scratched on the manhole cover. Please subscribe to the channel.